Now it's my great honor to introduce this year's convocation speaker, Paula Pretlow, Weinberg College class of 1977. Paula, formerly a senior vice president of one of the world's largest investment management firms, the Capital Group, spent her entire career in the financial sector. Prior to joining Capital in 1999, her finance and investment industry experience included tenures with Barclays Global Investors, now BlackRock, Credit Suisse, AXA Rosenberg, and Wells Fargo Bank. Paula, who has always been dedicated to giving back, is currently involved in a variety of civic activities centered around non-profit boards, foundations, and volunteer work. She serves on the board of the Kresge Foundation, a $3.6 billion private national foundation that works to expand opportunities in America's cities, including Detroit, through grant-making and social investing in 6 program areas. In addition, she serves on the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences Board of Visitors and the boards of the San Francisco Symphony and her synagogue in San Francisco, Congregation El Emmanuel. Her volunteer work includes a homeless youth serving organization and an educational nonprofit focused on underserved youth of color. Paula is a recipient of the Aiming High Award from Legal Momentum, the nation's oldest legal advocacy organization dedicated to advancing the rights of women and girls. Paula received her BA in political science from Northwestern University in 1977 and her MA from Kellogg School of Management in 1978. She is the proud mother of 2 young adults, Neil and Allison, and mother-in-law to Tanya, all 3 of whom are here today. Welcome. And is also, I would like to mention, has just been elected to join Northwestern's Board of Trustees, a role she will take up this September. So please give a hearty Weinberg College a welcome to Paula Pretlow.
Thank you, Adrian, for that lovely introduction. I'd also like to acknowledge faculty, staff, and each family member and friend who is here in support of the 2016 class of the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. Class of 2016, look at you, sitting in the same place I sat 39 years ago, knowing that in a couple of hours you will be newly minted alumni of this great university that I love. You may be wondering, what on earth is this woman going to say to me that I haven't already heard before? Well, I promise my best to try to keep you awake. You and I are embarking on something new today. We are leaving the safety of the familiar and being pulled or pushed into the adrenaline rush of the unknown. Today, you start life after NU. Today, I am speaking to 4,000 people in a football stadium. New for you, check. New for me, check. So for the next several minutes, we're in the same boat, okay? I feel a sense of urgency, and I presume that you do too. I imagine that you want to get on with the show and have your life unfold as you have meticulously imagined and dreamed of it. So do I. But my sense of urgency, in common with yours, but different, is because I have fewer years ahead of me than behind me. So I really do need to get on with the show. So can we talk? Some of the conversation may be a bit uncomfortable, but that's how life can be. And because life happens, I want to summon you to show up. Be in it, not only for yourselves, but for others too. As a trustee of an elite West Coast liberal arts college, I spent a considerable amount of time on that campus this year. I am curious and perplexed as I attempt to understand what is happening on our college and university campuses, and indeed around our country. Why in 2016 is our attention being called to confront an epidemic of issues around microaggressions, safe spaces, and outright bigotry. At that college, I led a convening of students, faculty, trustees, staff, and administration to talk about these matters, and just as important, to offer up some possible solutions. Solutions don't happen overnight, but we must all come to the table to talk and work through the inevitable pain that it takes to get to real solutions. As I look at you, a rainbow of colors, faiths, gender identities, physical capabilities, I urge you to show up not only in your life, but also in the lives of others. You are a melting pot of possibilities. Consider how much more is possible when each one of you is free. Free to sit in a room of peers, free to shop where you want, free to walk in any neighborhood, free to be in a meeting and not be viewed or judged or snubbed as the other who couldn't, shouldn't, or couldn't belong. Some of you may ask, what does this have to do with me? On the face of it, perhaps nothing. You may go through life doing just fine, with an awesome career, a beautiful family, good friends, excelling in everything you do. However, I want to challenge you to consider that this has everything to do with you. As a person of color and as a woman coming of age as a baby boomer, I was taught to buck it up and just keep forging ahead when I was met with the inevitable doubts and questions as to my ability, my smarts, my commitment. I was taught, you must be twice as good just to be on even ground. And things will be better for the next generation. It's your responsibility to make it so. I think we parents have told you, our children, that things are better, that we are in a post-racial and more gender-blind country. It is true. We have come a long way. But what I also realize to be true, especially in our current climate, where it seems that intolerance and bigotry have become fashionable, is that we still have a long way to go. Where it seems that intolerance and bigotry have become fashionable, we still have a long way to go. Maybe we've even gone backwards. It is up to each of us to help course correct, and I'm counting on you, my fellow, soon-to-be fellow alums, to do your part. Our life is happening in the global sense of that phrase. Show up. I'd like you to know more about me, not because I think I'm any more special than the next person, but because I hope you might find some nugget that you can relate to, or perhaps remember even 5 years from now. And that's even if you don't remember it came from me. All I really, truly want you to know and to remember that life happens, and if you show up, it usually works out just fine. If you believe everything you've read, by all accounts, I shouldn't be standing here in front of you today. I am a child of a Black divorced mother of 5 children, and I grew up in the 1960s and 70s in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. But for the love and determination of a woman who never made more than $20,000 a year working for the federal government, a father who may have divorced my mother, but never stopped loving me, and others who believed in me and recognized my talents, I may not have my extraordinary life. I took for granted, and without complaint as a child in elementary school, that I had to wear the same dress to school 2 days in a row. I took for granted, and without complaint, that I had to wait my turn for new shoes. I took for granted, and without complaint, that I had to share a bedroom with my mother and 3 sisters because, as the only male in the house, my brother got the other bedroom all to himself. We did eventually move to a bigger home. I also took for granted, and with much delight, my primary job, learning. In our home, education mattered most, and my mother determined her kids were going to get the most of it. In 1968, she decided that it was time for her exceptionally bright children to face their other competition, the smartest and richest white kids in town. You'll be fine, she assured us, and with that, we became among the first to voluntarily desegregate the Oklahoma City public schools. The expectation was set that I would excel. I did, in all aspects of scholarship, leadership, and music. I was born knowing that I would go to university. It was just a given in my family. The only question was where. When I was 12 years old, I announced that I would be leaving Oklahoma to go to university, and if you ask me how I could have known this, what I can tell you is that I was living in a world of dreams and the possibility that everything was in my grasp. And I had people in my life who told me it was good to have dreams. Having no idea how we would afford a private university, my mother nonetheless filled out the required paperwork for financial aid, neither of us really grasping what it might bring. Lesson: believe in yourself and forge a path. Make it your own path, but do understand it will take unexpected twists and turns. Show up. Northwestern, without a doubt, the opportunity to study, learn, and graduate from this place put me on a radical trajectory for the kinds of success that simply would not have been possible for me in Oklahoma. While my original plan was to become a lawyer, I detoured to Kellogg into a nascent program that accepted me as a first-year business school student when I was a senior. I fell in love with finance and investments, and I decided the law could wait. It's still waiting. Northwestern prepared me well to meet business challenges and greet business successes. My childhood prepared me for the continuing lists of firsts, in which I still find myself. These many decades later, I consider that a sad statement to make. I've had a meaningful career in finance and the investment management industry and exceptional mentors along the way. I had 2 mentors along the way, Warren Sanborn and Dave Larson, both from GATX Capital. They toughened me up, and they continue to be lifelong and dear friends. Warren, Dave, and I were from completely different worlds. Neither of them had ever worked with a black woman who wasn't a secretary, and I became each one's pet project. Eventually, it all worked out. Each in his own way taught me about business, the art of negotiation, and getting deals done. I may have been a novelty at first, but these 2 took the time and saw that I was worth their effort, and I proved to them that I was worth it. I still have mentors. Some of them are your age and a bit older, like my fabulous children sitting in the audience, because I have a lot to learn from you, and I admire the way your brains work. I also have 2 mentors in their 90s, full of vim and vigor. I admire the way their brains work too. Lesson: life happens, be prepared, do your best, and show up. People, some from the most unlikely places, want to help you succeed. Allow them, and when it is your turn, pay it forward. That is how to say thank you. In another fast-paced company, In another fast-paced company that lured me with the promise of a bigger title, bigger money, and even more opportunity, I quickly came to realize that my integrity and values did not align with those of the organization. When I said no and no again to practices that were not consistent with my philosophy, my integrity, or the reputation I had built, my superior and I determined that it was time for me to go. I left without another position in hand. By this time, I had become a single divorced mother of two, a statistic that was not part of my dreams or my plan, and I was the sole financial support for my two young children. Lesson: integrity cannot be purchased. Life happens. Show up. Have the courage to do the hard thing when it is also the right thing, even when it may feel that your world is falling apart. Eventually, I became burned out. Thank you. Eventually, I became burned out. I absolutely loved my career and my company, the Capital Group, but I was tired, and I announced my early retirement at age 55. I just needed a break from corporate life and planned to jump back in after a rest. Well, I discovered a month before my retirement date that I had a rare form of breast cancer for which there is still no standard protocol. I went on an experimental treatment at Stanford University. Having had chemo before surgery, a double mastectomy, more chemo, more surgery, I stand before you nearly 5 years later, healthy, vibrant, and thriving. I celebrated the end of my treatment by trekking the Khumbu Trail in Nepal. And while you may think this hairstyle is just that of a hip and cool 60-year-old, to me, it is that and more. To me, it is my quiet reminder of all my challenges and successes. It's my mark of freedom. I've always volunteered and given back. While I was in treatment, I just gave back more. It's important to be a voice for others. Lesson: you will face challenges, and some of you will face life-threatening ones. You will meet with failure along the way. At least, I sincerely hope so, because it's good for you. It is the grace and dignity with which you meet those challenges and failures that will determine the outcomes. Life happens. Show up for yourself and help others along the way. This brings me back to my beginning. To my last story, and it's something that happened to me not too long ago. I needed a new battery for my watch that I've worn for 15 years, which just minutes before I walked out here, the battery went dead again. I remember when and where I bought the watch because I had admired it for a long time. So with watch in hand, and not a second thought about it, I strolled into the signature Cartier store in San Francisco to have my watch serviced. And just like that, barely 2 steps into the store, I was confronted by a guard who tucked his thumb into his waistband, whispered to another employee, and began to follow me as I walked to the elevator. When I calmly turned around and asked him if there was a problem, he wanted to know where I was headed, as if I shouldn't know. No apology. It was just clear to him that I didn't belong in this exclusive store. Shocking, isn't it? I am a Northwestern educated, highly successful, 60-year-old Black Jewish woman. I can be in Cartier. Each one of you is special. You are at a unique point in your life, armed with a world-class education and unbridled promise. Use it all toward a good life. Define a good life to include working for equity, inclusion, tolerance, and acceptance, and standing up for what is right and just. Use your outside voice and keep our collective show on the road, leading to a society where the best of our human nature shines. It is time to get the show on the road. It's the show called life. Life happens. Show up. Bleed purple. And make it count. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the fabulous Paula Pretlow.